and behaviour. So I'm a recovering alcoholic, one day at a time, just a few days joined together, well, a few years. And so I'm stunned actually, just before I start it, the usual morning emptying of the bins at the restaurant across the road. Very loud clanging and bottle noises being chucked into bins and then taken away by a big lorry. God, how many of those a day go off? Anyway, I don't drink one day at a time, so I don't obsess about it, but I do talk about it and share recovery, what it is to be in recovery from being an active alcoholic, and why it's so important to me. Well, because it puts other behaviour in context too. So, an avid drinker from a young age, I don't know where I crossed the line, unless it was the first drink, which changed me in the way I felt. It fixed me. So when I hear the rattle of the bottles numerous times a day, there are several restaurants around where I live, very highfalutin. There's some more going. Goodness me, it's empties being checked out time. So I'll remember this next time I start the video. So, addicted to alcohol, also addicted to behaviour around people, places and things, work, relationships, and collecting. And these days I try and find balance, one day at a time. So, what helps me do this? Well, a fellowship. And that fellowship is Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for it, never can, never will. But that's okay, because it's just there. It's a fellowship of unique, authentic human beings with one similarity: a desire to stop drinking, stay stopped, and hopefully live life as it is. So the fellowship of AA is not about cloning people and turning them into happy, joyful, unless happy, joyful is happening, and it can be sad and awful as well. So life is as it is on a daily basis. And many people say pain offers growth and maturity, and emotional pain, especially around people, places and things, can be so deep we don't know how to deal with it. And what do? If we can't deal with it? We drink. Or we learn how to cope and then how to deal with reality. So coping is part of the mechanism of grieving a loss. And when it's an alcoholic in recovery, first thing we grieve is the loss of the best friend which fixed everything. It either made us senseless completely, so we didn't feel life and the damage to ourselves and other people, or it did the opposite. It put us in control, or thought we were in control, of everything that we surveyed. So either dominant or dependent, or in oblivion. Extremes of behaviour, always. So no balance in there. And for me, fellowship, AA, has taught me how to find balance. Not drink, and find out who I am, how I'm feeling, and why. Simple as that. So I share about it, experience, strength and hope of recovery, and the literature of AA on these videos, and what it's like to keep on living life in the moment now. Dealing with reality. Monday morning, I've been up for hours. I was up just before dawn, and it was lovely. It was a lovely moment where, you know, when the earth tilts and the sun starts to come up. Well, I don't get it directly through my windows, but the sky changes, the stars go out. All very, very poetic. But, you know, that's part of life. We can feel the deep of what's going on. So, what is AA? I share the AA preamble, or statement of intent, and then some of the reading around the 12 steps of action to change our attitude and behaviour for one day. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Oh, that's a lot. And it can't be done in a day. Recovery is about learning how to be sober as a newcomer how to get over the shakes, how to not want to go back and drink again. And the way I did it, I went to 90 meetings in 90 days, or rather I did more than that. Sometimes I went 3 times a day, because I was so frightened of turning my feet right or left and going into a pub rather than going into the fellowship rooms. So fear motivated me. I had a strong desire to stop drinking, but the emotional attachment and the physical attachment was still there. And my moment of clarity, well, I'll talk about that in June, because that's when my anniversary is. But the gift is these days, when I wake up and I say to myself, I am powerless over alcohol, and life would be unmanageable if I started drinking. Yes, that's true. But I have come to believe that a power greater than me has restored me to sanity. That's good conscience, truth, love and wisdom of others, and some call that God, and some call that God good conscience. So it's as we choose to believe. And then letting go and letting good in, or letting go and letting truth, honesty, openness, willingness and wisdom of others help us make our way on a daily basis. Letting go the old and letting in the new. What is good for us rather than what is bad for us, old behaviour. And then this month is all about the fear-less moral inventory, checking out our assets and liabilities. Well, the big one is to look at back then and then do a small one, step 10, every day. How's it gone? What are we grateful for? How did we make this day work? Well, how did we live this day? And it worked, rather. Not trying to control it, just be a part of and make good choices based on the evidence of now. All good stuff. And how did I learn this? From other people. I didn't come up with it myself. So for today, in this book, Daily Reflections, which covers the 12 steps of action, all about step 4 in April, it says, happiness is not the point. This is April 26th. I don't think happiness or unhappiness is the point. How do we meet the problems we face? How do we best learn from them and transmit what we have learned from others, or learned to others, if they would receive the knowledge? That's from As Bill Sees It. In my search to be happy, I changed jobs, married and divorced, took geographical cures and ran myself into debt, financially, emotionally and spiritually. In AA, I'm learning to grow up. Instead of that demanding that people, places and things make me happy, I can ask God, or good conscience, for self-acceptance, which is accepting ourselves just as we are, and we're learners. When a problem overwhelms me, AA's 12 steps will help me grow through the pain. The knowledge I gain can be a gift to others who suffer with the same problem. As Bill said, when pain comes, we are expected to learn from it willingly and help others to learn. When happiness comes, we accept it as a gift and thank God, or good conscience, for it. So, you know, the whole process of the 12 steps enables us to feel what life is all about. Emotional, feelings, whatever they are. And spiritual, this spiritual connection to now, life in the moment. And as has been said many times, what is spiritual? Many people say, or have come to understand, that it's the ability to cope with what's happening right now. So there is no big deal when it comes to spiritual. Everyone is, and everything is. It's right now, with us. And it's our ability to see the truth of what is happening around us, painful or not painful. So at the end of these videos, what helps me most on a daily basis when life is going well, so I don't overdo it, or life is going sad and I don't want to dwell too deeply on it, the serenity prayer can pull me back into the moment of now. And it goes like this: to God or good conscience, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is, for me, just for today. London Marathon going right now. So 26-mile slog for a few people, and I hope they make lots of money for charity. And all the causes are good. My video is all about recovery from addiction to substance or behaviour, And in the past, when a London Marathon might have been running, I might have been lying in bed still drunk from the night before. But this today, I'm full of cold. How am I feeling? Full of cold. Grateful beyond measure that I don't have a drink inside me. That's alcohol. I'm not behaving badly. So addiction to substance or behaviour is the very devil to get out of, because our willpower keeps on urging us to give it up. And I can do this on my own. And what I've learned is willpower is no good for this particular ailment of addiction. Addiction requires that we keep our self-will going, and on self-will we will fail because it's always a test. And actually, if we realise that we have lost our power over our drinking or our drugging or our behaviour in a particular way, which has become completely compulsive and we are unable to stop, the best way is to surrender and say, actually, I am powerless over this particular substance or behaviour, and I need help. And if I get help, I can work at it a day at a time. Sounds easy to say, but it's blinking difficult to do, because it's reversing what we feel is the right path, which is our thinking tells us we can use our willpower to crack this, and we can control it. And the absolute truth of addiction is we cannot control it, and we are powerless over those addictions. So it's not a bad story, really. It might sound a bit of a concern if you're new to the concept, but most of us who've actually made it through one day and then the next day and then the next day realise that if we are in company who are not drinking, and we learn from their experience, strength and hope, that the wisdom is not to drink a day at a time and not to make life much too complicated. Make it simple again, and don't try and do too much, and don't try and evade the truth of now. And the truth of now is, for me, I don't drink a day at a time if I'm lucky. I go to fellowship to help me understand my malady and get from the problem into the solution. And the interesting thing is, as we understand what the problem is with drink and all the behaviour that went with it, we can find ourselves back in what we call our defects of character. And my primary defects are fear, too much fear, putting on a brave face, always, and not so much these days, and ego, which is quite brittle, and not using or utilising enough of the courage, faith and confidence which is available to us all, and if we are included and part of what is going on, and we share the truth of now. So, as I say, how am I feeling? Okay, got a cold? Treat it. My diabetes is playing up, blood sugar's too high, and that's partly my diet as well, and I can do something about that, just gently. Otherwise I get an overreaction to extremes, as per usual. We alcoholics go to extremes, even in recovery, of trying to get it right. So, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is the primary plank in my recovery. I had a lot of medical help and family support and community support in order to get to that place of not drinking one day at a time. And then the fellowship keeps me on track, living my life uniquely and authentically. But I go to AA meetings, and at every meeting we share the preamble to the discussions which go on. And it goes like this, and I say it because it slows me down. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So one of my primary purposes in doing this video is to help me share, to talk to myself really, and reinforce the fact that I am in recovery, and actually to share my experience, strength and hope. But I never speak for AA, I speak about my recovery and how AA helps me. And, the most important thing for me is I am human, and I can be anything on any day, and I can understand things differently as time moves along. So I'm just gaining a little bit of wisdom each day, and also making mistakes every day, so it's not all easy, and it doesn't have to be hard if we have the right attitude, which is an open mind, an open heart, and a bit of wisdom learned from ourselves and other people. And I use the two books predominantly here, Daily Reflections and As Bill Sees It. And in this book, the Daily Reflections, It covers every day it has a reading, and the action program of AA, the 12 steps, as you may have heard or be completely familiar with, is abbreviated on this little card here. 12 steps there, and then the 12 traditions on the other side. So the 12 steps are to be utilised on a daily basis. It's about action and attitude and changing our behaviour. And the traditions is about the fellowship, unity, service and recovery. So 12 steps encourage openness, honesty and willingness to see each day as it may be. And step 4 is the fear less, and I say fear less moral inventory. It's a self-appraisal of our good and bad, or rather our good and difficult, or our defects. I always stumble on defects. I always call them areas of development, but actually it's the opposite we want to develop, which is often around courage, faith and confidence. So the fearless moral inventory can seem like a daunting task if you've never done it before, but if we just gradually work through to step 4 and then onwards, we start to experience living the steps rather than theoretically understanding what they are. My intellect told me I understood what the steps were, and then my emotional character and character building, it's taken a long time to actually see how to live the steps and incorporate them into good living practices, and that's just simply having good routines and making sure I don't get too big for my boots and sharing what I know. So in the daily reflections for today, it says happiness is not the point. I don't think happiness or unhappiness is the point. How do we meet the problems we face? How do we best learn from them and transmit what we have learned to others, if they would receive the knowledge? In my search to be happy, I changed jobs, married and divorced, took geographical cures, and ran myself into debt, financially, emotionally and spiritually. In AA, I'm learning to grow up. Instead of demanding that people, places, things make me happy, I can ask God for self-acceptance, or in good conscience, self-acceptance. When a problem overwhelms me, AA's 12 steps will help me grow through the pain. The knowledge I gain can be a gift to others who suffer with the same problem. As Bill said, when pain comes, we are expected to learn from it willingly and help others to learn. When happiness comes, we accept it as a gift and thank God or providence and nature for it. And simple, not for an alcoholic. And I suppose the number one fear I have is getting resentful. I remember last week I got resentful over something that happened, and I realised it wasn't the other people's fault that I felt the way I did. I felt the way I did because it reminded me of an incident in the past, or not being listened to by other people, and I got really outraged. And I swore to a couple of my friends I'd never go to that meeting again. And that happened at 1:45, and then by 1:45 I thought, what an arse. I'd better ring up and apologise, or at least apologise for my behaviour, which is outlandish and took me back to an older time when I wasn't feeling too good about me. So we learn, and I made tea yesterday, as I mentioned. Anyway, for the 26th of April, which it is today, in As Bill Seeded, and I'll say this reasonably quickly. Faced with alcoholic destruction, we became open-minded on spiritual matters. In this respect, alcohol was a great persuader. It finally beat us into a state of reasonableness. We had to quit playing God. It didn't work. We decided that hereafter, in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He would be the principal, we his agents. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new triumphal arch through which we passed to freedom. And the gift of that is, if we don't play God and just be a part of, and have our right size and our voice and our choices, we get a bit of serenity. And as the serenity prayer said, either to God or in good conscience as a plea, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, simply one day at a time. Hello, Don in London, all about recovery and Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for AA, I speak for myself. However, AA is integral to my daily well-being, and here's the AA preamble spoken at all meetings of AA. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Good morning, and the time is 8:30 in the morning, April the 26th, 2008, and last 24 hours have been pretty good, actually. I got to Parsons Green for an AA meeting at lunchtime yesterday at 1 o'clock, and I was doing the chair, and last time I went to that meeting was maybe 1 or 2 years ago, and there were only 12 people attending, and the difference today is there's about 50 or 60 people going to that meeting on that day. So I was a bit surprised when I walked in. I was anticipating giving a chair to 12 or so people, and then suddenly it's 60. And I thought to myself, well, what's the difference between 12 and 60? And there is in fact no difference, because I don't need to be afraid of numbers anymore. And the gift is, how many people are in the audience is not the important part of what I'm there for. It's me being there to share my experience, strength and hope of how recovery is going for me. And it's only for 15 or 20 minutes, and it's one of those meetings where afterwards, when people share that, they raise their hands and I have to pick. And I always find that very, very difficult, because no matter how we try to be democratic about it, whether we do it by male, female, in some sort of swapping about, or by age and youth, we never know how many years or what's going to come out of somebody's mouth about their particular take on the day, in this very one day we have to live. And I've been featuring this book, Practicing the Power of Now, by Eckhart Tolle, and I mentioned that I've been reading it, and the way I'm reading it at the moment is very similar to the way I'm reading the AA literature, that's the literature of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is by paragraph and page often. We're just breaking it down into sentences which have some relevance to my day. And what I found with this particular book, each paragraph seems to have relevance to the way I'm trying to understand living in the present moment. And I've got to chapter 3 so far. It says here about entering now. With the timeless dimension comes a different kind of knowing, one that does not kill the spirit that lives within every creature and everything, a knowing that does not destroy the sacredness of and mystery of life, but contains a deep love and reverence for all that is, a knowing of which the mind knows nothing. It goes on to say, break the old pattern, present moment denial and present moment resistance. Make it your practice to withdraw attention from the past and future whenever they are not needed. Stop out of the time dimension as much as possible in everyday life. So what it's saying to me there is, I can keep myself glued to my past, although it's my experience, and I can keep myself wondering about the future and not know what it might turn up. And in the process, I miss the point, which is living now, and it's the thinking patterns that we have, which is about denial of or resistance to the very present moment. And it's quite key, really, because when we're living in the now, the fears we have can disappear greatly, because we stop fearing what has gone on before or being found out, and we stop fearing what might happen tomorrow in an hour or so. And the gift is then we are able to make much more of this one moment. We're able to relish it, not only that, without our thinking it. And it's the difference between living in a current state of being or thinking about living in a current state of being. And if we're thinking about it, we're thinking we ought to be, or maybe it ought to look like this, rather than actually experience what it is. That very one moment of absorbing all that is going on and relishing the ups and downs of it. You know, the gift of these books is not to make life better, is to improve our understanding and comprehension of this very one precious moment we have. So in the one precious moment we have joyfulness and also sadness. So when we are experiencing these things in their full measure, without denial and without filters, then we're better able to process what is happening. And it is a higher way of living, if you like. Because if we're always wondering and reacting to, or trying to work out what is our response to things, we can actually miss the point, miss the very point that is going on. And I suspect that often involves love, because we fear it as much as want it or need it. And it takes a while to understand all these things. It's taken me a lifetime. Anyway, there's some readings today. And it's April 26th, as I say. Daily reflections, written daily, are pieces to do with each of the steps of AA. So step 4 is April, which is all about the fearless moral inventory, and I say fear less, because as we start to comprehend more without denials and filters, we do comprehend what the day is rather than wondering what it is. So happiness is not the point. I don't think happiness or unhappiness is the point. How do we meet the problems we face? How do we best learn from them and transmit that we have learned what we have learned to others, if they would receive the knowledge? And that comes from As Bill Sees It, page 306. It goes on to say, in my search to be happy, I changed jobs, married and divorced, took geographical cures, and ran myself into debt, financially, emotionally and spiritually. In AA, I'm learning to grow up. Instead of demanding that people, places and things make me happy, I can ask God for self-acceptance, and in my case that's looking for the truth and good conscience. When a problem overwhelms me, AA's 12 steps will help me grow through the pain. The knowledge I can gain, I can be a gift to others who suffer with the same problem. As Bill said, when pain comes, we are expected to learn from it willingly and help others to learn. When happiness comes, we accept it as a gift and thank God for it, for seeing the truth and working to our good conscience is all part of it for me. So you might notice that the God I understand is very similar to what Gandhi said, and I've got the recording of it where he actually says God is truth and love. And that's so important because beyond that understanding I really don't know. There's no proof. It's a question of faith, and I have a faith in human nature and good conscience, and that we can all be diverted one way or another. As Bill Sees It, and page 144, blind trust. Most surely there can be no trust where there is no love, nor can there be real love where distrust holds its malign sway. But does trust require that we be blind to other people's motives, or indeed to our own? Not at all. This would be folly. Most certainly we should assess the capacity for harm as well as the capacity for good in every person that we would trust. Such a private inventory can reveal the degree of confidence we should extend in any given situation. However, this inventory needs to be taken in the spirit of understanding and love. Nothing can so much bias our judgment as the negative emotions or suspicion of jealousy or anger. Having vested our confidence in another person, we ought to let them know of our full support. Because of this, more often than not, he will respond magnificently and far beyond our first expectations. And, that is about establishing boundaries, but also saying, with a little bit of confidence, the most important thing I need to do is say, I trust you. And as we go through trust, it's a two-way street. We learn, and in our responses more than our reactions, we probably make the right decisions. So we don't let go and forget folly. We let go and let our conscience and good conscience of others be a part of what goes on. Enough for now.